Hello, my name is Samantha Brace. This presentation focuses on a very popular and well-established treatment plan called Functional Training Communication. It uses a very common sense approach to managing maladaptive behavior patterns. As we have learned, difficulties with communication is a main focus for people diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders. It is easy to understand the frustration that results when there is a lack of communication. Even people with great communication skills and abilities get frustrated when their message is not understood. Research suggests that problem behaviors are 3 to 4 times more frequent in this population than in those without disabilities. Problem behaviors such as aggression, self-injury, stereotypical behaviors, and tantrums. The underlying notion is that challenging behaviors are communicative intents. In one of the largest studies by Bird and Weitzman in '94, researchers examined 10,000 children and found that the single best predictor of early school failure was the presence of challenging maladaptive behaviors. Maladaptive behavior is generally maintained by either a positive or a negative reinforcement. And it is related to the environmental events. We need to think about the learner's environment and think about what could be causing their behavior. This chart demonstrates a typical interaction due to miscommunication between a teacher and the learner. Individuals will sometimes engage in disruptive behavior to assess social attention or get some tangible item. They will also frequently engage in challenging behaviors to escape from something, like working, or maybe they're trying to get away from some loud sound. Our job is to determine the function of the behavior and teach replacement of a more desirable alternative behavior. As shown in this step chart, we first begin with the assessment, and then in step 2, select an appropriate behavior. As shown in this step chart, we first begin with the assessment. Then in step 2, we select an appropriate alternative response. And then step 3, we create a teaching situation, a new response. Ideally, we should be creating numerous teaching opportunities throughout the day to reinforce the desired behavior. Typically, the assessment process begins with informal observations and then interviewed by significant others. Behavioral functions are broken into 4 main categories: attention, tangible, escape, or sensory. This table describes the function of each type of behavior and how we can interpret maladaptive behaviors. In step 2, we have begun to assess the behavior function, and from there we can decide on a plan of action. This diagram is a good visual because it shows the process that practitioners can use to map out the results found in step 1. Identification of the appropriate communication response could be verbal, like if they have acquired language skills, or a gesture, like raising their hand, or you could use pictures to show what they are trying to communicate, or use assistive technology devices. Functional equivalence refers to the mechanism of behavior change that underlies the reduction of problem behavior. If we can teach the learner that they will get the same or better response by using an alternative way to communicate their need, it will be better for everyone. Recruiting natural communities of reinforcement allows learners to become more independent in their communities. Nonverbal learners also can benefit by soliciting help from community members. Less assistance from trained specialists allow the learners to be engaged and not so dependent on their caretakers. Other components are listed and should be considered also. This table sets forth step-by-step instructions on how to implement FCT. They're pretty straightforward, and I won't go through each one of them, but this is taken from our textbook and is a good reference to use. If we are to expect success, we must consider if the learner has any motivation to change. Going back to the idea of positive or negative reinforcement, if what they are doing is working for them, then we need to address how to motivate them to behave differently and get the same or better result, i.e. response. The presumption is that FCT reduces problem behaviors because it involves teaching and reinforcing replacement behaviors, serving the same function. According to our textbook, at the time that it was written, there had been close to 200 published articles documenting the success of FCT with a range of individuals. Matson and colleagues reviewed and evaluated the literature on treatment techniques on aggression and report that FCT was one of the most heavily researched approaches. According to ASHA, FCT they range from fairly effective to highly effective in the studies they viewed. A functional view of challenging behaviors suggests that they are just less acceptable, and sometimes much less acceptable forms of reasonable requests. For reinforcers like getting attention from others or getting help on difficult tasks, given this is a very well-established intervention strategy, I support functional communication training. Thank you for viewing my presentation.